we
I
I
see a
may run into.
Ruffer has started screen sharing. So you've got it, but you're not spewing anything into it. There we
Yeah,
go.
I am. There we are. I managed to get into Marquis Who's Who this year. Um, as sort of a maybe final touch to my career. I can't seem to find a job anymore or anybody that wants to hire me at the moment. So I'm basically retired just so I have some income and looking for all sorts of ways to come up with free food and various other things and keep myself housed in those terms. Um, but I'm also the reason for this talk is to talk about Packt. And Packt is, where am I? I've got too many things on my screen here. We don't want to show that one first. And yeah, this is going to be interesting. Well, we'll talk about this. Um, this is the way that I am right. I'm using, I was approached by a company called Packt, and I'm sure many of you have heard of them. It's Packt. They're out of the UK, but I'm working with people out of India. And I don't see how to get rid of this, whatever this line is up on top. That's covering up my windows there. Wonder if this is going to, nope, that just goes around to there. So I don't have a good way, and I don't have much there, so let's just stick with that. Um, and the people that I'm talking to are actually in India. And I've never worked with people out of India much of anything, so where I'd have to deal with a Zoom conference call with India. But it means that the overlapping time that is relatively convenient is 9 p.m. at night. That's 7 a.m. their time when they're starting to work. And okay, we can talk then. But they're a day ahead. So that's 7 a.m. the next day at 9 p.m. at my time. And that's caused sort of confusion, um, which is one of my new symptoms these days is my memory and basically remembering words, how to talk. And so this talk is rather interesting, and we'll see how long I can do it. I was gonna look at the time. Yep, okay, so um, and try to keep myself somewhat brief here. Uh, they have a bunch of ways of Pact has a bunch of ways and courses so that you can they show you how to write, tell you how to do writing again. I've done some in my past in documentation, and it's just a step above that. getting into more what this screen is that is displayed, should be displayed right now, is a Word document in a comment thing. I got the introduction, which is in their terms chapter 1, but it's actually chapter 0. So there is a little bit of confusion there that they wanted me to put in an introduction and talk about some of the terms. The title of my book is Real-Time Programming in the Zephyr. I forget what else. And there's my memory. My memory's going quickly. So I'm trying to get this book out. It's going to take most of the year. And every week or so, I've got a deadline of getting out a chapter. And there is 15 chapters. So I've got a little bit more than a week per chapter. If they're going to get it done in the whole year, but there is a lot of going back. I first write my first draft of the book, of the chapter, then tell them, and I use a SharePoint to do that. And then the SharePoint, they can see. And so I just tell them I'm done with that, and they go review it, put in a bunch of comments, which we see here on the side, and yeah, let me hide the thumbnails for now. And so we get some of the comments, and they apparently, I did this startup. So you want to become a real-time programmer, taking that from a ancient saying of, so you want to be a sysop. And I was a sysop for a while, including the GE GenieNet is where I started out some of the stuff. Was there a question there, or somebody piped up? Nope. Okay. I'll keep on going. I was doing that for the fourth group. I forget what kind of fourth group it was before in fact, I don't know if I was actually involved. No, it was in Michigan. I was doing this in Michigan. So I wasn't involved with the Silicon Valley fourth group. And doing some, I was running the sysop for the fourth language group on GenieNet. And that ended up being books of paper and trying to keep track of everything. And no, I don't want to be a sysop anymore. So I became a real-time programmer. And I explained what a real-time program, what real-time is. And it's just about anything can fit into real-time. The definition is broader than what they really say there on the link that I have. I've done it real-time programming in Windows, which you would think is actually impossible to do, but it's merely a change in your interrupt latency, the delay between the event and the time that you can actually respond to it. And it's still real time, but there's a very long interrupt latency in Windows. In Linux, we can get better. In Zephyr, it's almost actually real time. And so I explained some of that in the introduction. And I've just submitted the next chapter where I start talking about the computer setup that you're going to need to run Zephyr. And I'm using a lot of stuff that's off of the web, more stuff than Packt wants me to use, but adding a lot of my own contribution to that. And I didn't in the first chapter because it seemed fairly concise the way it is. And we'll see what they do in the first stage of review and whether I've got to add the 5 pages back. They like seeing books that are in the 300 pages category. I am going to be stretching it to get mine into 250 pages. And no, I'm not going to be able to show much of this. The SharePoint has it all set up for all the chapters. I have a whole bunch of links that I've on stuff I've already done. I've done. They're supposed to be setting up a web page, an Amazon web page for an Amazon authors, and I've contacted fourth group here to get some reviewers that are going to spread the word and say, wow, this is a great thing. When my book or not the introduction, when my book page appears on Amazon, then there's going to be at least 6 months before the actual book actually gets there. And so that's going to be interesting, and we'll see how it all works. But seeing that I did ask and got a volunteer, and I'm sorry I can't remember the names I've already done too much on the computer right now to go find that list, and I was running late this morning. So I didn't get all my pages set up to show what I'm doing and who I've got for reviewers and people to give me accolades. And we'll see how well that goes. But I wanted to introduce the process of what I'm going to be working on this year. Now, I did just get my first advance to I get a 16% commission off of the sale of my books, and they are giving me $2,000 in advance spread out on various milestones throughout the year. I just hit the first one by getting the promotional material in that will be on the Amazon page introducing the book. And that one finally hit my bank account yesterday. And so I got a little bit of money. Got $250. Whoopee. It's the work is not worth what they're paying, but it is a place where you have editors and people who will check your grammar and do all that other stuff. And they will be working on illustrations for me. And it will turn into a real book where I couldn't do that on my own. And we'll see. I'll be talking about it hopefully over the year. Has nothing to do with fourth at this point, but I do have the startings and have talked about this a while back of putting forth into Zephyr. I don't know if I will ever get there because fourth has a few requirements that Zephyr doesn't have, seeing it is a really embedded operating system. But it is a real-time operating system, and I can do fourth. And I've got fourth basically running on it right now. It's just not running into something that I can present yet. It's basically running in the POSIX version of Zephyr, which is really just Linux. But that's where I'm in. Any questions?
So are you completely saturated with this activity, or would you have time to ask Bill Ragsdale if he needs help with his book?
Um, I didn't know Bill was writing a book. I think I have I can volunteer to do a little bit of time between finding money, finding food, doing the book, and I was a day late on my deadline for doing the real chapter one. I don't know. As with most everybody that I've ever talked to, retirement doesn't mean that you're out of things to do.
Yeah. I don't know that Bill really wants any help, but yes, he's writing a book. Let me ask you, are there like programming I don't know the name. There's like Rabbit, but for little programming tasks where they do a task and say, here, do this, and we'll pay you X dollars, and you can bid on it, or you can look at the available questions and decide whether you want to do them, or is that been largely supplanted by the AI chat GPT writing stupid code to do stupid things?
No, this will actually be a printed book. In
Just
other words, I've got to things like links to websites. I have to put in the actual page link in parentheses after I've said the what you would normally see in a hyperlink. So
Okay.
this will be ancient technology in paper. And I can put in questions. I'm not yet.
Okay.
I can
I'm glad
have a
we have
source code.
questions.
What was that?
I said that's my understanding. The question I was asking was somewhat different, but let's move on. Are there any other questions? I'd like to wrap it up and move on.
Okay.
Okay, if you could unshare
Yes,
at this point, we could
I
go
need
to Brad. Brad
to
might
stop
take a minute
sharing.
to consciousness.
And my computer comes back.
Thank you so much, Dennis.